Good morning, people. Welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we've got a massive show for you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show this morning, we will be talking a little bit about the potential Amrabat to Manchester United deal. We're also going to be talking about Cucurella, giving you an update on where we're at with that one, as well as looking at some other midfield options which Manchester United are apparently in talks with, as well as some left-back options, which have come as a bit of a surprise this morning. So we will get into that, of course, as well. We're also going to be talking a bit about Harry Maguire and a potential exit being blocked by Manchester United, as well as Eric Bailly, who looks finally set to leave the club. As always, I do try and make the show as interactive as possible, so do get in the live chat, do get in the comment section, and let me know how you're feeling about everything we discuss on the show today. So let's start off with Harry Maguire then. So obviously, we brought you the story last night that apparently Manchester United have rejected a loan offer from Everton for Harry Maguire. Now, the conditions of this deal were not very favourable towards Manchester United. Everton were only willing to pay Manchester United 25% of Harry Maguire's salary, which is 50 grand out of his 200 grand per week salary, meaning Manchester United would have had to pay the remaining £150,000 per week. Now, I have no issue with them rejecting that. That would have been a stupid deal to do and one we definitely should have rejected. But there is more stories coming out this morning from The Times, from Sky Sports, from a couple of other places saying that apparently Manchester United have now blocked a fresh approach for Harry Maguire from West Ham. Now, at this stage, we don't know whether this is a loan request, whether it's a full transfer. They've just said that a deal has been blocked. And then we have another outlet in the UK this morning saying the following: Manchester United are now set to reject the latest offer for Harry Maguire from West Ham. United have no interest in letting Maguire leave this summer now as a result of Raphael Varane's injury. So this is something we haven't really spoken about on the show yet because there isn't any solid information yet on the Varane injury. But if Manchester United are blocking the Maguire transfer out of the club, which is being what was reported this morning, that does make you wonder what's going on with Raphael Varane, doesn't it? Obviously, he went off at half-time against Nottingham Forest with an injury. We haven't heard anything regarding this injury since then. Hopefully, there's nothing wrong with him, but knowing Varane, he usually does get injured for 2 or 3 games at a time, doesn't he? It's very rare that Varane goes off injured and then he comes back in the next game. So I don't want to say let's assume the worst, but I'd be very surprised if we see Raphael Varane against Arsenal on Saturday personally. So I don't understand keeping Harry Maguire, but if West Ham are only willing to take him on loan and pay a quarter of his wages, you can't then get a replacement because you don't have the money to do it. So I understand if that's the case, but if there's a genuine offer on the table of cash up front to buy Harry Maguire, you've got to go and do that deal, and you've got to then go and buy Jean-Claire Todibo. There's no debate about it. So this story this morning is a little bit vague. It's a little bit unsure about what they're actually proposing, West Ham. Is it a loan? If it's a loan, then yes, obviously block it. If it's a permanent transfer, then you have to go and get that deal done. But obviously we will keep you updated on that one as and when we get more information from this story. If you want my opinion, I think it's probably a loan that West Ham are proposing. Obviously, Everton wanted him on loan. We rejected that. And Manchester United have now rejected West Ham's approach, which, as I said, I think will be a loan because Fabrizio came out yesterday saying that if Manchester United receive another bid of £30 million, they will accept it. Obviously, I know they accepted it the first time round, but Harry Maguire couldn't agree terms with West Ham. But Fabrizio has said that if that offer was made again, Manchester United would accept it and they would ultimately give Harry Maguire the money that he wanted to leave. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the final days of the window. Obviously, we have been negotiating with Nice for Jean-Claire Todibo for the last month or so. Personal terms are already said to be agreed between Manchester United and Nice. He wants to come to Manchester United. You've got journalists over in France saying that Jean-Claire Todibo is unsettled and he wants to leave the club, obviously because of the interest from Manchester United. So we have a solid option there if Harry Maguire does go. And I've even gone as far as saying that, you know what, if Harry Maguire does leave this summer, I would just make Johnny Evans the fifth choice centre-back. I'd make him the 5th choice centre-back. Go and buy somebody else in January, or maybe even wait till, the end of the season. Because I think we have enough options. Obviously, you've got Varane. Unless Varane's got a really bad injury, then obviously that changes everything. But say Varane's just out for a couple of games, then your centre-back options are Martinez, Varane, Lindelof, Johnny Evans, and then Luke Shaw as the kind of 5th choice left-back when he comes back. But let me know what you think about that one. Would you be happy to see Harry Maguire go out on loan? Or do you think it's somebody do you think it's somebody who we should keep? Let me know what you think. Yeah, the story about the payout as well. Let me just clarify that. So Fabrizio said that Manchester United would accept an offer if it was submitted again. Let me get the direct quote up for you because I know people like the quotes. Where is it? All right, so Fabrizio said this. He said, if they get another proposal of £30 million, they will accept that, no doubt. So it seems a little bit strange because obviously we accepted it the first time round, so I don't really get what that means. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because the only way that Harry Maguire goes is if you pay him his money. So is that them saying we'll accept the 30 million and we'll pay him his money? Because there's no point in accepting it if Harry Maguire then says, I want my 12 million compensation, and Manchester United say no. Like, that's just the same as what happened a couple of weeks ago. So Manchester United must now be willing to give him his payoff. Otherwise, why would they be willing to accept a £30 million bid? Do you see where I'm going with that? So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We'll have to see if Manchester United do get this bid come in, or whether West Ham are just, toying with loan offers. West Ham have obviously spent a hell of a lot of money this window, but when you look at the people they've signed, they've only spent the amount of money they got for Declan Rice. So their net spend is probably close to zero because they've just reinvested that money really well. So let's wait and see what happens. I don't think a loan move makes any sense for Maguire, but obviously we'll wait and see whether someone comes in with a permanent offer. Maybe that will happen. We'll keep you updated as we go. Right, let's move on to the next story though. Let's talk a little bit about Sofyan Amrabat. So we have a story coming out this morning saying that apparently Manchester United and Fiorentina are now in contact to find a solution for Sofyan Amrabat. Okay, well, we've been hearing that for weeks, so I'm not going to get too excited about that one. And then we have another story coming out from the Telegraph this morning saying that talks have taken place at Manchester United to sign Fiorentina's Sofyan Amrabat, who has appeared to be their top target. An offer has not yet been made as of yet, which suggests money needs to be brought into Old Trafford first. So just to give you a bit of clarity on what's going on with the Amrabat situation. So obviously for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been our understanding that we've needed to sell a player in order to bring in a player, right? That's what Fabrizio said multiple times. We sell Fred, we don't sign Amrabat. We sell Matic Kovar, we don't get Amrabat. We sell Noam Emran, I know for not very much money, we don't get Amrabat. Dean Henderson's just completed his medical at Crystal Palace for a £20 million deal. There's still no bid for Amrabat. So I don't really understand what's going on here. We've been told we need to sell a player in order to bring in Amrabat, right? But now, Fabrizio came out yesterday and said that Manchester United need to sell a midfielder. Emphasise the word sell. He said Manchester United need to sell a midfielder in order to buy Amrabat. Well, the only player at the moment who I would say is 90% going to leave the club is Donny van de Beek. And the only offer we have on the table at the moment is a loan offer from Real Sociedad, and they want us to pay most of his wages. So I don't really see where this midfielder being sold is coming from. Obviously, there's this McTominay to Bayern Munich situation that could unfold, but I'm not going to put all my hopes on this McTominay going to Bayern Munich. I'd say that one's like 50-50. It could be completely made up, or it could be something that happens. I have no idea. It would be a shock, wouldn't it, for most people if Scott McTominay ended up moving to Bayern Munich. So, yeah, I don't really understand what's happening here. I worked it all out. We did a video yesterday, guys, and our net spend is only about £110 million at this point in the transfer window, and we've removed around £40 to £50 million worth of wages, and I just don't understand where that money's gone. I don't understand why they can't use the £40 to £50 million that they've saved in a year on wages to go and buy Amrabat, to go and buy, to spend that £40 million on players. It doesn't really make any sense to me, because that is what we're being told, that Manchester United's financial fair play burdens are because of how high the wage bill is. We've removed, since January, 13 players from the club, right? Fred, Henderson, Elanga, Jones, Tuanzebe, David De Gea, Matic Kovar, Noam Emran, Iqbal, Ronaldo, Tellez, Weghorst, and Sabitzer. 13 people have left since the January transfer window, and we've only signed 3 players. 13 gone, 3 signed. I mean, that doesn't really make any sense, does it? And the wages that we've saved off those 13 players is around £75 million in wages we've saved. Yet we've only brought in 3 players. It just doesn't make any sense, and I just don't buy into this whole, we don't have any money, we need to sell to buy, because where's that other money gone? We had the money to do that last year, and we weren't even in the Champions League. We were in the Europa League. So how last year in the Europa League are we able to spend £50 million more in wages in one season? Yet the next year, when we're in the Champions League, we've obviously got all the revenue from the Champions League. We won the League Cup. We finished 3rd. when we didn't even finish in the top 4 the season before. And this season we're being told we don't have the money. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Something doesn't add up. Yeah, I think we're just being scammed here. I really, really do. So let me know how you feel about that one. I just don't really get this whole we need to now sell a midfielder to get Amrabat. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not falling for it. And I'm not saying that, you know, Fabrizio Romano is wrong, because obviously he'll have got this information from somebody at the club. He'll have got this from a legitimate source. You know, he's not just going to have made it up. I'm not saying that by any means. But yeah, for me, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But let me know what you think about that one. In short, the Amrabat deal, until we sell a midfielder, apparently we're not going to go for him. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. And then on the flip side of that, obviously we've got this links to Hoiberg, who is obviously the Tottenham player. Somebody who I'm going to be honest, I don't really rate that much. I think he's an all right midfielder. I wouldn't say he's any better than Fred. Maybe he's a bit better than Scott McTominay, but I wouldn't say he's world class by any means. I would say he's a pretty kind of average, maybe above average midfielder in the Premier League. I don't think he improves our team massively. 28 years of age, obviously been at Tottenham for a few years now, hasn't really been that great at Tottenham. I don't think he really plays much anymore, does he? Because they played Basuma. Yeah, he's played 44 minutes of football in the last 3 matches. So it's not really great, is it? Somebody who is pretty much now a Tottenham reject is somebody we're heavily linked to. 44 minutes out of 3 matches in the Premier League. Like, is that very good? What does that average? He's played about 13 minutes a game for the first 3 games. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really excite me. It doesn't. Like, we're buying a reject from Tottenham who doesn't even play. Yeah, it doesn't excite me anyway. Let's read you the story and then I can give you my opinion. So this is coming up from Sky Sports. They're saying that Hoiberg has emerged as the latest potential option, with Manchester United being offered the chance to speak to the player. So just to be very, very clear, this is all coming from the Tottenham/player side. Manchester United, from my understanding, hadn't inquired for this player. It was Tottenham and the player's agent trying to push Hoiberg onto Manchester United. Now, is this potentially a loan offer? Maybe that's what would happen. Is there a world where we get Hoiberg on loan and we get Amrabat? We buy Amrabat? Maybe. I wouldn't have a massive issue if that happens, because obviously you need to replace Fred. And then if, you know, Donny goes, you need to replace him as well. And when you think last season we had Sabitzer, we had lots of other options in that midfield. Let's be honest right here. I'm not trying to be negative on the show this morning, but we have definitely weakened our squad since the beginning of the transfer window. If you go through the players that we've lost, okay? As I just said, 13 people have gone and we've only signed 3. I would say our squad overall is genuinely weaker. Genuinely. I mean, you get rid of Ronaldo, one of the greatest goal scorers in the world, in all history, and you bring in Rasmus Højlund, who scored 9 goals in the Italian league. You get rid of, you know, Fred, who people didn't think was great, but he played a lot of games last season, and you bring in nobody. You get rid of Sabitzer and you bring in Mason Mount. I wouldn't say there's a massive difference between Sabitzer and Mason Mount. You get rid of David De Gea, you bring in Onana. Okay, yes, Onana could be, you know, this new thinking goalkeeper for the future, but at this moment in time, I wouldn't say that bringing Onana has made a massive difference. So when you actually look at that, you know, Ronaldo over Højlund, I would say Ronaldo probably gets you more goals in the Premier League. Onana versus De Gea, at this moment in time, I wouldn't say there's a massive difference. I'm not saying in 2 to 3 years we might be playing this beautiful playing out from the back football and he might be getting assists left, right and centre, but at the moment I wouldn't say it's made much of a difference. And Mason Mount versus Sabitzer, I wouldn't say it's made much of a difference. So when you look at it like that, we've got rid of 13 people and we've brought in 3 people who, at this point in time, I mean, Højlund we can't even compare because he hasn't even played football yet, but I wouldn't say the people we've signed have made much difference versus what we had last year. But let me know what you think about that in the comment section. That's just my honest opinion. You know, you get rid of 13 people and you don't bring in 3 world-class signings. We haven't just brought in Osimhen, Frankie de Jong and Kim Min-jae. We've brought in Højlund, who I think can be good, Mason Mount, who most of you didn't want, and Onana, who's obviously a good goalkeeper, but some of the fan base were happy to keep David De Gea for 1 season. So overall, yeah, it's not great. And to be like, we need to sell players to buy more people. What's happened to all of the money from those other, 13 people that have gone? That's my question here. But anyway, let's move on to the next bit of the show. Right. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one. Right, so we've got another story coming up from Fabrizio. He says, in the last 48 hours, Hoiberg is one of the players who have been discussed by Manchester United as a possibility. It is not a concrete negotiation at this stage. Hoiberg has a chance to leave Tottenham if they receive a good proposal. So, I mean, that from Fabrizio emphasises that maybe it's going to be a permanent transfer. He says, Hoiberg has a chance to leave Tottenham if they receive a good proposal. Now, what is that, a loan move, a permanent move? I wouldn't be that upset about it if, if it's a loan move, just as a stopgap. Like, okay, fine, Hoiberg on loan. It doesn't excite me, but I'm not going to be throwing my toys at the pram. Whereas if you sign, a 28-year-old who doesn't even play for Tottenham, and you actually pay Tottenham money for him, I think that's a really bad decision. I do. Like, why would we do that? It makes zero sense. Why did you let Fred go to bring in Hoiberg? You could have just kept Sabitzer on loan for another season, or you know what I mean. We had other options there, but yeah. Right, let's keep on with the show. But let me know what you think about the Hoiberg deal. Let me know if there's anybody here who actually really, really wants Hoiberg to play for Manchester United. Would you like to see him at Old Trafford? It's a no from me, but we'll obviously keep you updated on that one. I mean, if we end the window with like Hoiberg on loan, someone else at left back on loan, like that's not going to be good, is it? And no Amrabat. Yeah, not great at all. Right, let's move on to the next story though. Let's talk a little bit about the left back option. So there's a story that's come out overnight from Damasio over in Italy saying that Manchester United have apparently contacted Roma about signing Leonardo Spinazzola. Now, he is somebody I think is a good player, but he's 30 years of age. He's had some really bad injuries over the last couple of seasons. And I just think it's the wrong profile of player. Like, if this is a loan move for one season, maybe. But why would Roma loan out one of their best left-back wing-backs? It doesn't really make any sense, does it? Obviously, he plays kind of left wing-back for Roma. I just don't really understand why Roma would want to do this deal unless Manchester United were willing to buy him. Obviously, he's a very experienced player. He's got 1 year left on his contract, which could make this a bit more of a appealing option maybe for Manchester United. It might make it more doable. He's started both of the last two games for Roma in the Serie A. So I don't know. I'm not sure about this one. I think if this was 2 or 3 years ago, I would be quite excited about this signing. But a 30-year-old who's had a really bad injury record, who's probably going to cost us 20-30 million. I'm not that excited about this one. Obviously, Luke Shaw will be back at some point as well. What happens when Luke Shaw comes back? Who's the first choice? Who's the first choice option then? And as somebody says in the chat, yeah, Spinazzola's had 3 injuries this year already. I mean, there you go. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it? Yeah, I personally don't think that this is a good option to go for. And then there's another left back that we've been linked to this morning as well. This is coming from Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio is saying that Manchester United have called Lyon to ask for the conditions of a deal for Nicolas Tagliafico. Ten Hag knows the player well. So this is another player who obviously played for Erik Ten Hag at Ajax. I mean, before we know it, we're literally going to be Ajax FC, won't we? We'll have Martinez, Anthony, Onana, Tagliafico. Obviously, Ericsson was at Ajax for a bit, wasn't he? Who else have we got? I mean, half of our team will be Ajax players, literally, if we get Tagliafico as well. Again, a player who I think when he was in his prime was a decent player. I wouldn't ever say he was a world-class player. Again, 30 years of age, not really the right profile. He's not someone for the future. Doesn't really excite me that much. I appreciate he's just won the World Cup. He's won a lot of trophies in his career, but is he a great option? Again, he started the last 3 games for Lyon in the Liga. So why would Lyon let him go on loan? It would have to, we'd have to pay a fee. How are we going to pay a fee if we can't even buy Amrabat? There's all these questions that don't really make sense with why we're bothering to contact Tagliafico. Why are we wasting our time contacting these players who start every game for their club when we don't have any money, apparently? That's what we're being told, even though my theory is that we do have money, we're just not spending it. But yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to me. We will run through the list of all the left backs that we've been linked to as well, so we can together as a community try and work out who would be our preferred option. But before we do that, we've got over 1,000 people watching now, which is amazing. Big ups to everybody. Please do go and smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new here. It doesn't cost any money, it's completely free, and it really helps the channel to grow, so do get involved. We're about 20 subscribers now away from 16,200, so go and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will now crack on with the rest of the show. So this is a comprehensive list of all of the left backs that we've been linked to. I'm going to read them all out, and then I want you to get in the comment section and let me know who your preferred option is, all right? So we've been linked to Sergio Reguilon, Rico Henry, Marcus Alonso, Marc Cucurella, Ryan Bertrand, Nicolas Tagliafico, and Leonardo Spinazzola. So we've been linked to 7 different centre-backs. Those seem to be the options that are most likely to happen. Now, who would you go for? Who would be your preferred option? I would go for Cucurella. I think Cucurella is probably the best option on loan out of all of those players. I think Rico Henry is a better age profile, 26 years of age. Obviously plays for Brentford, has had a really, really good couple of seasons. But again, that one would involve a fee. I think Sergio Reguilon would be a loan. Marcus Alonso could be a loan. Cucurella could be a loan. Whereas Tagliafico, Spinazzola and Rico Henry, why would their clubs let them go on loan when they start games for them? They wouldn't. You'd have to buy them. So I just don't really see how that could work. So I think the most likely options are Cucurella, Alonso and Reguilon. And out of those three, I'm going with Cucurella 100% because I don't really rate Marcus Alonso that much. Again, he was good when he was at Chelsea for periods. So Reguilon, like, again, we're taking a reject from Tottenham. Not really up for that. But yeah, let me know who your preferred option is. Yeah, let me know who your preferred option is. Lara says we should get to Debo and use Martinez as a left back. Yeah. I like the idea of that. I do. I really, really do. I think, honestly, Tadebo's essential, especially now that Varane looks like he's going to be injured. We don't know how long for, but to go into the season with Maguire as probably someone who's now going to get game time does concern me. But yeah, let's not dwell on that for too long. Until we know the full picture on the Raphael Varane story, I'm not going to get too worked up about it. Right, now, there's a story coming out from The Telegraph this morning saying that Erik ten Hag is apparently demanding Manchester United to sign another central midfielder. And you know what? As I just said to you guys, he 100% is within his right. You get rid of Fred, you also get rid of Sabitzer. That's two midfielders who have left the club this summer. And we've only signed Mason Mount, who's now injured. So, as I said to you 5 minutes ago, our squad is worse off than it was at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, we had Fred and Sabitzer, who were both available. Sabitzer had just come back from an injury. But anyway, they were both fit and available. We've gone from that to spending 55 million on Mount, who's now injured. So we're actually worse off than we were before. And we definitely need a midfielder, if not two. I think we need two. I've said that for the last month. We 100% need two, especially as it looks like Donny will be leaving in the next 2 to 3 days before the window closes. Now, who do you think this midfielder will be? Obviously, the people we've been linked to are Amrabat, Gravenberch, Hoiberg. Like, those are the three kind of main options. I think that obviously Amrabat is the fan favourite. I think Gravenberch would be a quality player, but apparently Liverpool are kind of pressing forward with that deal. There's a story coming out this morning from over in Germany from Florian Plettenberg saying that Liverpool could now push to sign Ryan Gravenberch from Bayern Munich in the final days of the transfer window. So it looks very much like Ryan Gravenberch to Liverpool looks like a more likely option at this point. What does that mean for us? I mean, if that means we go for Hoiberg, if we go from Amrabat to Gravenberch, I don't have a massive issue with that. But if we go from Amrabat to Gravenberch to Hoiberg, I'm going to be really disappointed. I am. I'm going to be really frustrated. And I'm just going to be sat there asking myself, what the hell has happened here? How have we gone from 8 weeks of talking about Amrabat to end up with a Tottenham reject who doesn't even play for Tottenham? He just sits on the bench. Like, anyway, we should have just kept Fred if that was going to be the case. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand the thinking behind this. They're both about the same age profile. Makes zero sense. But let me know what you think about that one. Who do you think will be the midfield signing? Do you think we'll even get a midfield signing? Or do you think that Manchester United will just be stuck with whatever we've got? Now, there's a bit of a story coming out about Luke Shaw this morning, which I will bring to you really, really quickly. So apparently Luke Shaw's injury is a muscular injury in his leg. And it's something, and it says that apparently the injury has come based on playing too much football last season, which is, the amount of people we're seeing getting injured this season from playing, a game every single 3 days for the last 12 months because of the World Cup being put in the middle of the season. And it goes as far as saying that he could be out from anywhere between November to December as he needs at least 2 months away from contact with a ball. So he just needs time to recover and let his body heal. And the players haven't been able to have that. I know they had a month off or whatever it was around the summer, but a month isn't very long if you actually think about it. If you're playing football, pure athletes these are, playing professional football every day, every 2 to 3 days in Manchester United's case, for a whole year, and starting every single game and playing most of the minutes, then no wonder these people are getting injuries. Now, I guess if you want to look at it on the flip side, if you want to look at it from an argument's perspective, maybe we should have rotated the squad. Maybe we should have brought in more people. I mean, that all just goes back to squad depth, though, The fact that Manchester City can send out their reserve team, which probably beats 80% of the teams in the Premier League, I would say. I would say that Manchester City's bench would beat, they'd beat Everton, they'd beat Burnley, they'd beat Bournemouth, they'd beat all of those teams comfortably. They might not beat Manchester United, they might not beat Liverpool, Arsenal, but I would say anybody below like the top 6, Manchester United's B team would beat. Whereas if you look at our B team now, if you look at our bench from the weekend, right, it's like, it is so poor. And people can criticise Ten Hag and say, why did he start Luke Shaw so much? Why did he start these players so much? He knows that, fatigue can catch up with them. He knows that injuries can happen. But what other options did he have? If he'd have been playing, Alvaro Fernandez every game last season, like we probably wouldn't have got top 4. We probably wouldn't have won a trophy. And you know how essential it is to get 3 points in games. Otherwise, his job could have been on the line. So, I mean, if you look at our bench from the weekend, right, our squad depth is Lindelof, Sancho. Obviously, Varane's injured now, so Lindelof will start. McTominay, who could potentially leave. Pellistri, who is a good player, but not not ready to be starting every game. Harry Maguire, who everybody in the fan base wants gone. Dan Gore, who's a youth player who doesn't even ever play. Dean Henderson, who's just left. Alvaro Fernandez, who's about to go on loan to Granada. And Garnacho. I mean, that's our squad depth. After this week, Dean Henderson's going to be gone. Alvaro Fernandez is going to be gone, and potentially Maguire or McTominay is going to be gone. So our bench is going to be like very, very weak. It's going to be Johnny Evans, Sancho, Dan Gore, Garnacho, Pellistri, and then maybe like a couple of youth players. That'll be our squad depth. What happens if somebody gets injured? You can't sub out Bruno Fernandes. You can't. You just simply can't do it. And we don't have any depth. So it's easy for people to say, oh, Erik ten Hag should have rotated. He should have done this. But when you actually look at the players we have at our disposal, so you're telling me that you want Harry Maguire to start over Martinez. You're telling me that you want McTominay to start over Bruno Fernandes. You're living in dream world if you think that we would have got top 4 doing that. We wouldn't have. We would have not got top 4. We wouldn't have won a trophy, and there'll probably be people in this fan base calling for Erik ten Hag to be sacked. So we can't blame this on Erik ten Hag. This is because of UEFA. This is because of putting a World Cup in the middle of a tournament. In the middle of a season. But anyway, that's my rant for this bit of the show over. Yeah, it's frustrating, it is, and we need more players desperately. 3 signings is not good enough under any circumstances, especially when you let 13 players go since January and you haven't replaced any of them. Right, let's move on to the next story though. Let's talk a little bit about Eric Bailly. So there's a story coming out this morning saying that Eric Bailly is now expected to move to Saudi Arabia. Obviously, he was linked to Fulham. He was linked to a couple of other clubs. I don't know whether we're going to get a fee for Eric Bailly. My guess is we won't. My guess is that he'll just go on a free transfer. Obviously, he's not part of the squad whatsoever, which is kind of confusing. Like, I would definitely rather see Eric Bailly play than Harry Maguire, 110%. So I don't really know what he's done so wrong to not be even, in contention to play. I would genuinely rather sell Harry Maguire for 30 million and then just have Eric Bailly as the 4th or 5th choice centre-back. If that then allowed us to go and get a midfielder, go and maybe get a striker, go and improve the areas of the team where we're really, really lacking. Because as we just went through on our squad depth then, like, our squad is so thin, and we're about to start the season. Well, the season's already started, but you know what I mean? The window's about to close and our squad is so thin. 1 more injury, 2 more injuries. If Casemiro and Rashford get injured, like, our bench will literally be youth players then, because you'd have Garnacho starting, Harry Maguire would... You see where I'm going with this? We're very, very close to absolute crisis. And for me, I don't know what Eric Bailly's done wrong. Like, I get it. He is a bit rash in his tackles. Sometimes he does dodgy things. Obviously, when he was on loan at Marseille, he fly kicked somebody and got banned for 10 games. I get it. He's not perfect in that sense, but he does, try hard. I think he's better than Maguire, personally. But anyway, that's just my take on it. Let me know if you think I'm talking rubbish, but it looks like Eric Bailly is leaving regardless. Obviously, the decision's not up to me. It's not up to you. Eric Bailly will be going. So yeah, that is what it is. Now, finally, we've got one more story to get through before we wrap up the video, and that is about Marc Cucurella. Fabrizio Romano has said again, this came out this morning. He was saying that contacts today have taken place between Manchester United and Chelsea for the signing of Marc Cucurella. So it looks like out of all of the left-back options, this one is picking up some steam, and it does look like Manchester United... it does look like he will probably come to Manchester United, I think. I think that he is the best option. Somebody in the chat saying, Liverpool have moved 17 players on. This stuff is nonsense. Who have we lost besides Fred, who actually played? Donny van de Beek is a bench warmer. I mean, mate, if you look through who we've lost David De Gea, who was our starting goalkeeper. We lost Elanga, who was a bench player. We lost Ronaldo, who scored us 20 goals in our worst ever season. We've lost Sabitzer, who started most games. We've lost Weghorst, who started every single game. So, I mean, I've just listed 5 players that were part of the squad, and we've brought in 3. So I don't really understand your logic there, mate. If you're literally going off that logic, David De Gea has been replaced with Onana. Ronaldo's been replaced by Højlund. Sabitza's been replaced by Mount. Okay, well, who's Weghorst been replaced by? Who's Fred been replaced by? Who's Elanga been replaced by on the bench? Who's Henderson been replaced by? You see where I'm going? It's not excusable to get rid of 13 players who are in and around the first team squad and only bring in 3. But just think about it for a second. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So, yeah. Right, I'm going to wrap up the video here, guys, because I have got some things I need to do this morning, but I will be back at 6 p.m. for an hour-long show, and there will be some videos going out throughout the day. Please do smash a like on the video on your way out, and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I hope everyone has a lovely morning, day, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you all later.